Okay, thank you very much. Please join me in Gasho. Bodhisattvas of the Buddha lands and the 9 other quarters likewise go to pay homage to Amida. Shakyamuni Tathagata has taught in verse the praise of the Buddha's immeasurable virtues. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. So I'm just going to jump right into it. In our tradition of Buddhism, we often say that the Pure Land lies in the Western quarter. Okay, Saiho is the Japanese phrase, in the Western quarter. So in Mahayana Buddhism, we are part of the Mahayana school of Buddhism. There are many Buddhas, right? And explains that there are many Buddha lands, or what are called pure lands. So there's many of these pure lands. And in this domain, in this Buddha land, there is a Buddha that kind of stands and watches over this Buddha land that the Buddha has created. So in a similar fashion, Amida Buddha has created the Pure Land, which lies in the Western quarter and watches over this domain and welcomes all other people into this domain. And so why is Amida Buddha? It's not just Japanese culture, it's many other cultures, Vietnamese culture, Chinese culture, Korean culture. Why is Amida Buddha the supreme, or considered the higher of all the other Buddhas? Or why is there so much focus on this Buddha? And it's because in the other Buddha lands, as I mentioned in the earlier Dharma discussion, there is a condition that is placed on everybody, or on the people who are born there, right? You have to be this kind of person. You have to do these kinds of practices. You have to be moralistic in this kind of sense. But in Amida's Pure Land, both the sentient being, or what we call in Japanese, the bonbu, the person with blind passions, attachments, and the sages alike are both welcomed into Amida Buddha's Pure Land. And so this is why Amida Buddha's Pure Land is considered to be the most kind of exquisite, the highest in virtues amongst all other Pure Lands. Okay, so this is kind of the understanding in the sutras of why it is explained as such. So for us then, how are we to kind of understand this? What is the significance of the Pure Land for us? Why do we call ourselves Pure Land Buddhists? Okay, so we say the words Jodo Shinshu, right? Jodo Shinshu, if you translate that into English, is Pure Land Buddhists, right? So what is the significance of this? And so what is it, isn't the Pure Land then kind of like a heaven? What's the difference between these two, right? So I'd like to kind of talk about that today, okay? So first of all, the Pure Land is a depiction of truth, right? That transcends our notion of space and time. So in other words, the Pure Land is a depiction of truth. It's a depiction of truth. Much like Amida Buddha, right? Who is not a physical being and not a god and not a deity. Amida Buddha is described with human-like qualities, right? But this is so that we can understand what truth is, right? Because truth is beyond our parameters, our scope of what we can understand, right? And so truth is beyond this. And then Pure Land is described as a place beyond our understanding of what truth is. That might be kind of difficult to understand. So I'm going to try to give you an example to help explain this in a straightforward way. Imagine that in your life, you were exposed to only vanilla ice cream, strawberry ice cream, or chocolate ice cream, okay? Only these 3 ice creams you're exposed to in your entire life, right? And so maybe some days you're going to have chocolate, maybe other days you'll have vanilla, right? Some days you might be a little adventurous, try a little bit of each 3, right? Neapolitan, right? I think that's what they call it, all right? But this is all you know, right? Until you talk about this with a friend, let's say. And then your friend kind of looks at you with a weird face and says, you do know that there's more than 3 flavors, right? That there's other flavors, right? To which you're kind of like, what? And then so your friend takes you to Baskin Robbins, right? And so at Baskin Robbins, there's all kinds of flavors, right? And you're blown away as to all the different flavors. You're floored, you're overflowing with joy to the different kinds of ice creams that there are. You cannot at first understand what this is, what this place is, right? That is beyond your scope of understanding at first, right? And so this is what it's kind of like, right? The Pure Land, in a sense, is Baskin Robbins, right? It is beyond this. It is truth that is beyond the scope of what we can understand, right? So let's see. the Pure Land is this Baskin Robbins. And when we think, everything there is to the world is what is presented to us right before us, that is not the whole understanding of truth, right? Especially in today's day and age, where we all have lost kind of our ability to imagine, right, things, right? We tend only to believe what is physically presented to us. And that is a very limited way of looking at things, right? And this is why I believe people today are most fearful of the issue of death more than ever before. And it's because of this focus on this life right now. There's too much attachment to this life right now that is going on, right? One of the common phrases, I'm digressing a little bit, but if I may, there is one of the common phrases that's the in phrase right now is the here and now, right? The here and now, or be in the moment, right? Be in the moment, right? Then we say this, we hear this a lot, right? But do we know what this actually really means? In Buddhism, when we talk about the here and now, it is important. The here and now is very important, but there's also the phrase sanze in Japanese. Sanze refers to the 3 times. And these 3 times refer to the past, it refers to the present, and it refers to the future. And if we don't acknowledge these 3 and understand these 3, we can never fully understand here and now. We can never fully understand and appreciate being in the moment. Right? The past means then our karmic actions that we have created, our karmic history. Okay. The future is what lies after we pass away, right? This understanding of what happens to us after we die. What does Buddhism say about the Pure Land and the afterlife, right? When we understand these 3 times, then we can understand the here and now. But today's mainstream kind of media, popular culture, only talks about here and now, right? What we call habuku in Japanese, but they take out the past and they take out the future. They call this baloney, right? Because it's not what's scientifically provable, right? But the thing about it is, if we don't respect where we come from, right? And if we don't respect and try to understand where we are going, we cannot understand this present moment right now, right? And so it really gets me going when I hear this phrase, here and now, in the moment. It's like, do you know what you really mean by that? That's kind of what I want to say, right? It's not just a kakkoi hyogen. It's not just to sound cool, right? It's to really understand the 3 times, okay? But I digress. So this Pure Land is Baskin Robbins. I'd like to return to this because this Baskin Robbins shows us truth that is much more than just what we can understand. But we have to give this truth some kind of concrete qualities. So in the case of Amida Buddha, we give it anthropomorphic features. In other words, human-like qualities, right? Has a hand, face, body, just like ours. Or we can give it physical properties like a place, such as the Pure Land, all of the adornments. Everything is gold. There's immaculate things that are hanging from the covering here, right? Let's see what else. Flowers, sweet fragrance of the incense, lights of the wisdom, right? These are all qualities of the Pure Land, right? And so they're all depicting what this truth is, right? So the Pure Land represents this truth and resolves all of our concerns of life. The concerns such as, what happens to us after we die, right? What is the significance of life? All of these things is what's addressed in the sutras, the 48 vows. So both the Pure Land and Amida Buddha, as I keep mentioning, is a representation of the truth, right? You can take this literally, and many people have in the history of time, but we also have to remember its significance in a figurative sense as well. It represents truth that is beyond the scope of what we can understand. It is pointing to a truth that we cannot comprehend, right? But embraces us nonetheless. So you might be wondering then, I get that Amida Buddha and the Pure Land are depictions of truth, but what does that have to do with me? Why should I care, right? Why does it matter for me to know this, right? And these are questions that you might be wondering. And so I'd like to kind of present to you kind of an example of why this matters, okay? I've mentioned this in a Golden Chain article, but I'd like to talk about it today, which is a story about that takes place in Japan with a little boy and his obacha, right? And so this little boy and the obacha always go to otera for omairi, right? They always go to omairi, and then the obacha kind of stays behind, and the boy has to go home, right? And he goes home by himself. And so every time he goes home by himself, the minister comes out to him and says to him, "Boy, do you know how to get home? Are you okay? You're going to be okay on your own?" And so the boy would say, "Oh yeah, I know my way home. It's not too far from here." Right? So then the minister says, "Okay," right? And then the next week comes by, and then they come to Obanchan, and the little boy comes to service again, right? And so right, sure enough, when the boy goes to leave, the minister asks the boy, right, "Do you know your way home? Kairi michi wakaru ka?" Right? And then the boy says, "Oh yeah, I know. Yes, I'm fine." And so this becomes a pattern. Every time that the boy and the Obachan go to the otera, the minister asks this boy this. And so finally the boy gets kind of mad, right? He knows I know how to get home. And so keep asking me, right? And so he goes home, right? And so that kind of ends, right? And so over time, the little boy grows up and stops coming to temple, right? An all too familiar situation, right? And doesn't come back to temple for a long time. And finally, one day, he's like, maybe he's retired or so. During this time, there is some kind of connection that happens. And so he comes back to the temple, right? And as he's sitting in the hondo, just as you are right now, he's sitting and he's kind of reminiscing about all the times that he was at this temple when he was a little boy. And all of a sudden, in his mind, or in his heart, as we say in Japanese, that voice comes back up. "Boy, do you know how to get home?" And as soon as he hears this, he realizes what the minister was asking him the whole time. It wasn't about, does he know his way back to his house that he lived in at the time? It was asking him about, does he know where he is going after life? Does he know what this life and the meaning of it is, the significance of this life? Does he know where he's going, right? This is what we are being asked as well. Do you know where you're going, right? So that is the significance of this story, right? That we're being asked this question all the time, right? So when we ask, why should I know about the Buddha and the Pure Land? Why should I come here to temple? What's the significance of this? The answer to that question is that the Pure Land is truth, right? And truth is home. Right? So you see, right now, this life is like a dream. It is an illusion, right? We don't see the entire truth of it, right? But Amida Buddha, the Pure Land, the Western direction, everything that you see in the Onaijing, everything that we chant, these are all signs that are telling us that truth is beyond what we can just see, but that this truth embraces us as we are, right? And what is even more interesting is that our lives are riddled with these signs that point us to the truth. We're just not listening to it in the right way, but the signs are always there. But just as the man in this story, who all throughout his life was being told to think about where his home truly was, he was guided since his childhood to look to Amida Buddha and the Pure Land as his home. All of us as well are being guided right now by the Buddha and the Pure Land. Every Sunday service, when we come before the Buddha, put our hands together in Gassho, we are being told by the Buddha, welcome home. Right? When we chant the sutras, we are reading the words of Amida Buddha saying to us, do you know where home is? When we go home and watch the Warriors game, we are being told by the world of truth that time is of the essence, right? We have to think about this now while we are alive, right? We don't know when this life will end. We have to think about this life now, right? And we're being asked by the world of truth, do you know your way home? Every moment in this life becomes a moment where truth is calling to us. And this is Amida Buddha's calling voice, prompting us to look in the Western direction, prompting us to tell us that we should be born in the Pure Land and to think about what this life really means. This is what Pure Land Buddhism is in a nutshell. I hope you can explain this if someone asks you what this tradition is about. But no, but this is what I'm trying to explain to you in a nutshell, that the significance of what the Pure Land is. So to the question then, I promise I'll finish very shortly. Is the Pure Land, is a Pure Land a place? The answer to that is a yes and a no, right? It's a yes and a no. I'd like to show you something to explain this, okay? It's a globe here. So when you go west, right? You go west, you go west, you go west, you keep going west. You end up landing, okay, let's do California then. You end up landing in the same place where you started, right? If you go west far enough. So in the same way, we say that the Pure Land is in the western direction, but that is only to give us a place marker. The Pure Land is actually everywhere. And the reason why is because the Pure Land is truth. The Pure Land is truth itself. And there is no place where truth does not reach. So it can be a place, but it is more than just a place, right? It is truth that is beyond us. It is truth that is beyond us, but at the same time, it embraces us just as we are. And that is the significance of this religious tradition, which I hope you can remember. Thank you very much today for your time. Please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.